My name's Sean Power, and I'm one of the team here at Refractive, and we're the creators of OverDRIVE. I also have my colleague Ian Weatherhog on the line with me, although Ian is having some audio problems, so hopefully we'll get to him later. Ian is the Chief Technical Officer for the product, and he'll be helping hopefully with any questions raised during the session. The event today will last around 30 minutes, and we'll make a recording available afterwards so you can either review the information or share with your colleagues. If you have any questions during the event, then please use the chat box. It's on the right-hand side of the screen, and we'll try to answer any questions raised either at the end of the session or certainly afterwards. We'll reply if we run out of time, but hopefully we'll have time to cover everything. So this is a brief agenda for the event today. We have a few slides to introduce OverDRIVE and the product and just show you what it is and give you some background information for those of you who have not seen it before. And we'll also focus particularly on the workflow module, particularly because that's the theme of today. And so we're focusing on one area of the OverDRIVE product. We'll conclude with some suggested next steps, and also there's a special offer for you to get started with the workflow module. And as I said, the Q&A will follow at the end of the session. So OverDRIVE itself is designed for organizations using G Suite, and it lets you create a website or a portal automatically from content held within Google Drive and elsewhere within G Suite. With OverDRIVE, you can create great looking web pages and portals without the need for the specialist skills usually needed for that type of solution. Your staff or other users will have easy online access to the resources held within the portal and the information that they need at the time and the location that they need it. Typically, OverDRIVE is used for intranets, extranets, wikis, event sites, knowledge bases, that kind of thing. And the workflow module, as you see, and when we go through the demonstration, is just one feature of OverDRIVE. So we'll touch on some of the others just to give you some background information. OverDRIVE is used by the likes of UNESCO, Greenpeace, Tarmac Construction, Allied Wire and Cable, etc., amongst many other organisations, and is used across lots of different industries, which helps us understand what the requirements are for each industry and use those knowledge to help other organisations in different industries get the most from the product. So workflow, as I said before, is just one module of OverDRIVE, just one feature if you like, and it can be used on any OverDRIVE site. There's no additional fee for workflow beyond the normal OverDRIVE license fees, and we'll cover the cost of OverDRIVE later in the session. It lets you use documents in Drive to build custom workflows for your organization. Those documents are either Google Docs, Sheets, or Slides. And we'll see some of that, as I said, in the demonstration as we go through. There are many different uses for workflow, and because it is so flexible and can be used for so many different things. And there are some examples on the screen, as you can see. So the workflow module provides an approvals process effectively, and it's got the associated email notifications required to move things along and to keep the approval process in step. So that's kind of just a brief introduction. As I said, we'll now show you what OverDRIVE is, show you briefly around OverDRIVE. Don't want to spend too much time on that. And most of the time in the demonstration will be on the workflow feature. And we'll be using an existing workflow process, and then we'll create one from scratch as well, just so you can see the process from start to finish, which is quite useful. So I'm just going to shell out of the presentation. And I'm using this site here. This is an OverDRIVE site for a fictional furniture manufacturer, supposedly based out of Boston in the US. So it's got some information on their homepage of the site, including some announcements. It's got a live Twitter feed and a live map, etc. Not too exciting. As I said before, OverDRIVE allows you to pull information in from across your G Suite environment and also outside G Suite. As you can see, we've got some information coming in from Twitter for example. Some of the things that we can do, as I said, I don't want to spend too much time on OverDrive because many of you know it already, but briefly, I can do things like display my contacts very nicely to my users, and I'm sharing these contacts with any user off this site. So those of you who've been using G Suite for a while will understand how difficult it is to share contacts. Well, actually, it's just a breeze with OverDrive. I can do that easily. I can also share things like calendars and photos and anything else. But also what I can do with OverDrive is take the contents of my Google Drive and display it effectively on the site. So this is just a neat way to display information that's in a Google Sheet. So I've got my sheet, I've ripped the content out of the sheet, I've displayed it on the page, and I've added more context, more information about it. And again, I can do things like sorting these ranges if they're appropriate, but I can also filter. So let's say that I wanted to check what products were in had high availability. I can do that with ease. Or let's say I'm looking for anything that mentions table. Well, there we go. There's all my products. So again, content stays within Drive. All I'm doing is taking the content and displaying it appropriately. And I can do a really good job of that with Google Docs as well. So underlying here is a Google Doc, and I've again taken the contents and I've ripped them out and displayed them on the page and effectively embedding the document directly onto the page here, and then adding this pagination function, again, just to make it easy for my users to be able to read the information. There are lots of other things, and we'll see some of the things that we can do with OverDrive as we go. But that's basically as an introduction. That's all I want to do. You can ask any questions you want about OverDrive, and we can follow up with those for those of you who don't know it. What I want to do now is focus on the workflow feature, because that's what we're here for. So under this operations and navigation menu, I've got this press release. So effectively what I'm trying to do is get an approvals process for press releases. So everything that is undertaken is audited, and it's controlled, and it's measured. And I have two users set up, so I'll be flicking between accounts, so please forgive me. I'll try and tell you when I'm doing that. But this is essentially a user account. So I'm a marketing executive, and I want to create a new press release, and I want to get that new press release approved by the management team. So all I need to do is come up here to where it says here, new press release, and I can put some brief details in here. So I'm just going to say, not very imaginatively, New York Furniture Week, and I can click OK. And that essentially initiates the process. The basis of the workflow environment, or the process, is based on a document template. And here is the template here. So every approval process that we go through, every request effectively uses this template. And it's got some, as you see, it's got some a standard layout, and it's got some standard text which come into every new request that we make. So when I'm making a request, I'm starting with that particular template. As you can see, it's filled in all the standard information, and it's then leaving up to me to fill in the rest of the information. Well, here what I want to do is put some information in the content section. So I have some already created. So I'll put that in, and that's not particularly clever, but you'll get the idea. So assuming that I finish this, and assuming that we've got real information in here, not this garbage, then I can check this and I can say, I'm happy with this. What I want to do is now seek approval. And I can go through this process here, and it just get this button here that says request approval. I can put more information in here. So I can put in release for New York, or whatever information I want to put into there. It's telling me here that a user, Sharon Kelly, will be notified of this change. So Sharon is a user, she's an approver of the workflow. And she, in fact, in this fictitious environment, is our marketing director, as you can see. We can have multiple approvers, and each of them effectively have the right to either approve or reject a request. But effectively, in this case, we've only got Sharon as the approver. Once I click OK, I'm now moving to the next stage of the approval process. It takes me as the user back to my list of requests which are in the system, and you can see we've got them at various stages and statuses within the process. Very quickly going to move over to Sharon's account because I want to show you one or two things over there. So here we are. So this is now Sharon's account. Sharon is the approver. Should be getting an email. Here we go. So this email tells me that somebody has requested something within that workflow process that Sharon is an approver for. A couple of things she can do. She can either click on this view the item to approve or reject, or in fact I've got it open, so I'll just move over here as you can see here. And what that link does, it brings us directly into this workflow here. I'll do a quick refresh because I know that something has changed on there. And this is the one that I'm interested in, is this New York Furniture Week. But I can also go back in time and say, well, this one's still pending, so I want to have a look at that one as well if I want to. Just for ease of use in the demonstration, we'll just focus on this one. So this contains all the information that the user has put into this request, including the cardboard message. And Sharon has now got two choices, effectively. She can either approve this, which says, yes, I'm happy with that. And in this fictitious environment, saying, yes, go ahead and release it, publish it, do whatever else you need to do. Or I can say, well, actually, I'm not quite happy with this. So I can reject it. So I'm going to do that one because I think we need to clean up the content. Might be a useful message to give at this stage. And again, it's informing Sharon that Sean Power, who is the creator, is the initiator of this process, he'll be notified of this change. So when I click OK, it takes me back again to the list of requests in here, and the status of this request has changed to rejected, which is good for me because it allows me to know what stage it's at. If I very quickly move back over to the requester account, I said I'm trying not to do that too much, but I have to in this case. Here we have the status as rejected. I come in here. And assuming this is a process, I'm not happy with that. I think that's the right content, or I've changed it, or I've fixed the problems, or I've done something that says, I'm happy with this now, Sharon. I want to request approval. So I can put in here, changes made, and click OK. So now I'm just going back through the same cycle that I did before. Now, it's important I'm showing you this because actually everything is recorded as we go through, and I will come back to that later. So this request is back in the process, and the status is pending. If I go back to Sharon's account, Sharon is the authorizer, as I mentioned before. Very quickly, you'll see that the status has changed to pending. I can come into here and I can have a look at the changes which have been made, and happy days, I'm happy with that. So I can click approve and I can say welcome message, job well done. That will do. Now, every stage that I've gone through so far creates an email, and it creates a notification to anybody involved in this chain. So it's the requester or the approvers receive notifications. And you'll see some of this if we go back over to Sharon's email account. You'll see the information. This is the one which was there before. Now, if I go back to the requester's account, again, just do a quick refresh, you'll see that this New York Furniture Week has now been approved. So I can do whatever else that I need to do from here. One more thing, a couple of more things I want to show you. So you might have seen this button as we've been going backwards and forwards, this view history. Essentially what this allows us to do is to keep an audit trail of everything that's happened with this request. Who's requested it, what time, what happened, has it been approved, why has it been rejected, when was it rejected. All that information is held within here, which is everything that we need to do. The other thing that I can do is mark it as complete, which basically just removes it from this list. So saying it's finished, I'm happy with it, let's just get rid of it and get rid of this list, as we can see here. Now, one thing I do want to show you, if I look in the Google Drive folder, so this page is essentially built around a Google Drive folder, and this is the way that OverDrive works. So a menu item, as you can see here, is effectively a folder within Google Drive. And this is a Google Drive folder for this press releases folder. And you can see all the documents that I've created, and you can see the activity on those documents. So if I click on the latest one that we've been working on, you'll see that the ownership has changed and people have been editing it as it's been going through its process. So we're getting very, very deep in terms of how we're interacting with Google Docs and Google Drive itself, and that's a concurrent theme with within OverDrive. Lots of the things that we can do. Okay, so I've shown you kind of how the process works, how a workflow can work. What I want to do now is create one live for you. And the workflow design module is actually built into OverDrive itself. So if I come back up here to this, this main operations folder, I'll create a new one on this folder. You'll see in here, I've got some other documents in here that just happen to be in here. These may be useful for users or visitors to this particular page. But actually what I want to do is use this button here, and I'm going to create new files and folders. A couple of things, reason I'm showing you this is because it allows us, and it shows what OverDrive can do in creating multiple documents and multiple folders. Because anybody who's used Drive for any amount of time will know that it's actually quite a difficult process to create them. So if you're creating them for an event, or for a list of customers, or for students, or anything like that, you can create multiple documents and folders just using OverDrive. So this one, actually, what I'm going to do is create a new approval. We'll just leave that. So I'll create the folder. And there we are. This is the approval process that I'm creating here. So I'll go through to that page. And now what I'm going to use is the page or the site building process within OverDrive. That's called Page Builder. So I'll come over here, and you'll see that some of these things you may recognize. This is where I pull in information from Google Sheets. We saw the price list, Google Document, we saw that furniture market report. As you can see, we can pull in all sorts of information from Google Drive, elsewhere within Google, such as contacts, calendars, maps, etc. You've seen us pull in Twitter feed, but we've got Facebook as well. But this is what I'm interested in. At this particular point, it's workflow, because that's what I want to create on this particular page. So I simply come over here, I drag my workflow up, I'll quickly resize it. And now what I need to do is just configure this. And I'll quickly do this for you. So first thing that I do is I create and choose a template. Remember, we were using the press release template before. This time, what I'm going to do is choose a travel authorization. Fairly common use for a workflow, works particularly well with OverDrive Workflow because it's tightly integrated with that Google Drive. The drive owner, that's a really neat feature of OverDrive. It's basically centralized ownership of documents within the workflow. So if I create a workflow request, I don't particularly want to own that document. I don't think I should own it. So what I can do is Sharon, in this particular case, Sharon is the marketing director. She can also happen to approve travel authorization. So now any document that's created as part of this process, Sharon owns, which is really useful. Approvers, as I said, any number of approvers can be associated with this workflow. Sharon's going to be one. I don't want myself, but I'll have another demo account, and hey, let's Mark as well. So every time a request is initiated using this process, all three of these users will be notified, and all three of them can approve. So they're kind of all at the same level. I'll just click OK. Now everything else is customizable. As I can say, I can change the name of the button to initiate the process. You remember before it was new press release. I can just change that to be travel authorization. I can also change the tooltip just in case users get stuck. I can change that to whatever I want it to be. And I can also change the file name of the documents which are created. And there's a really neat tip here for those of you who are using OverDrive for a new site for the first time, use this help button here, because it takes you through to our effectively a window on our help site. We do have a full help site at help.overdrive.io, but actually this is just a shortened versions of this. And what this shows you is the type of items and content you can have as the title of the documents. You see we've got sequential numbers, we've got usernames in any format, we've got date and time, etc. So we can do whatever we want. I'll leave it as that as a time being. That will do for me. And then I can choose, okay, once I've created it, once I've pressed that button and once I've started the process, what happens? Do I want to go back into the list of existing approvals? Well, actually, no, I don't. What I want to do is I'll open the file in edit mode, which was the process I used before, because typically I'm starting a process and I want to add the content at that time. Finally, I've got file visibility. This not only shows you the standard statuses of processes, so draft, pending, rejected, etc. It also gives you the opportunity to say what actually appears within this list of requests which are in the channel. Do I want people to be able to see all pending or all rejected or all approved? For press releases, probably yes, doesn't make any difference, but some of these can be quite sensitive. And so it is quite important that we can say, show me only mine, I can't see anybody else's approved request, so I can uncheck that. Finally, I just click OK, and that's effectively the workflow created, which allows me to start the process. All I need to do is do that button there. I am running quite short time. That's quite a long demonstration, longer than I thought, but hopefully you've got an idea. I know there's been loads of questions coming in, so I'm going to quickly go back to the presentation and I'll just finish up on this very quickly. Pricing, probably pricing is one of the most popular questions we have. So there are two levels of users within OverDrive. There are editors and viewers. Editors change content and add content to sites. Viewers only consume what's there. As a workflow user, either a requester or an approver, they need editor licenses. And as you can see, these are starting at $5 per month. For businesses, and there is a discount for education and non-profit. We can talk about pricing and a volume discount, and there's also, as I mentioned, a special offer later on. But those are the figures to bear in mind, depending on which industry you're operating in. Okay, question and answers. I see there's been quite a few. So, Ian, is your audio back up?
I hope so. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. You are a bit echoey, but you're fine. So I'll bring you in if there's any of these in here. Okay, so is this HIPAA compliant? Difficult question. So all the documents, everything that's created with OverDrive remains within Google Drive, which, as you know, is HIPAA compliant. We don't have a specific certification to say OverDrive is. We are working with some organizations who need that compliance, and hopefully we'll be able to have an announcement on that shortly. So we will send more information about that. Are the Google Docs translatable on the web? Okay, talking about translatable for different languages. Ian, do you want to pick that one up?
Yeah, well, Google Docs has they have a translate function within them, so you can sort of trigger the translation from English to any language you like. I don't know if that helps.
Yes, I think that answers it. And also the OverDrive site that holds the workflow processes, those can be changed to any of the main languages: Spanish, Italian, German, Japanese even. So yes, we can use it in multiple languages. Quick question from Toby. So this is an extension within G Suite. So it's an additional product to G Suite, but it's tightly integrated, as you've seen, hopefully, Troy, that it works alongside G Suite and Drive and calendars and docs, etc. And a follow-up question to that, I think, is there a workflow design tool? I think I showed that at the back end. Everything is self-contained within OverDrive. So you can not only create your workflows within OverDRIVE, you can hold the results within then all the audit trails, etc. Christina, we collect info via forms. Can you create a doc based on that info and then route it based on the person email address entered into the form? Great question, Christina. Not at the moment. Ian, do you want to pick that up? Have we got anywhere near that?
No, I think I understand the use case, and with OverDRIVE Workflow, we're deliberately trying to solve the problem of document-based workflows rather than Google Forms. I think there are a number of add-ons for Google Forms that can do routing based on email addresses and things like that. So I would go and look out one of those add-ons, and some of them will create docs or PDFs based on the form data. Those docs and PDFs could be in a Drive folder, which is handled by OverDRIVE. So as Sean showed you, an OverDRIVE workflow is connected to a Drive folder. Anything that puts a file in that Drive folder can trigger the workflow and organize it from there. So a more complex solution, but doable.
Okay, thanks. Troy, I think we showed you how the workflows are designed. If there's any other questions on that, just fire them back to us and we can talk to us. Tristan, same question about Google Forms. I think Ian's just answered that. Can you guys assist in building these workflows? Absolutely, we can. They are fairly simple, as hopefully you've seen, but if there's any nuances or anything that you need, anything specific or any extensions to it, then we're happy to take what the standard product does and help you get the workflow that you need. Tristan, certainly we're happy to talk about that, and we'll come back to you. Will you be showing dynamic workflows based on form outputs? Can you do this? John, it might have been a similar question as before. So you collect the information in form and then work the workflow routing based on that. If that hasn't answered it, then please come back to us and we're happy to do that. Troy, I can create an automation, if this then that workflow using social media as a trigger. Yes, you possibly could. Everything starts with a doc. So anything, as I showed you the Google Drive folder, which holds all these documents which hold the request. If you inject any document into that folder, it automatically starts an approval process. So you don't have to start from scratch, start from a template to start the approval process. It can be just throw a document into that folder and that's the approval process started. So I'm sure you could do something with that, Troy. Again, we need to know more details about that. John, we're trying to answer the chat questions. Hopefully we're getting to you. Christina, so this is a one-level workflow. Is there ability to route a doc depending on approval decisions along the way? Ian, do you want to pick that one up?
Yes, certainly. Again, we are a fairly simple workflow at the moment. Next release will have workflow stages, which will be sort of drag and drop stages with multiple approvers in each stage. So if a document needs to initially be approved by, let's say, the HR department, then it can be approved or rejected. And if it's approved, it would then move along to, say, the finance department, and so on. So an unlimited number of steps along that process. But we won't have any branching or decision making or things like that for in the near-term roadmap. There are other products out there that much more expensive that tackle that kind of thing. We're trying to keep it simple and solve the majority of use cases that we've come across.
Good, thanks for that. I think Brian had the same question about multiple conditional levels of approval. We've got that. Regina, can you upload files to a form, for example, an expense reimbursement form? Yeah, interesting. So we're starting with a document, and that document, you can insert images into that document. What you can't do is attach anything to that document as yet, although we have talked about doing that because that may be a requirement in that particular case as you're reciting there, Regina. So we certainly can do some of it now, not everything. We may get round through it. Stacey, can your OverDRIVE be purchased through TechSoup Canada? Not at the moment, Stacey, although we're in talk with TechSoup about doing so, because, as you say, we've got non-profit pricing. So it's definitely something that we're trying to help with. If that's a real issue for you, if you have to purchase through TechSoup, then we could talk about accelerating that that for you. But certainly we can help with that. And Troy, thank you very much for your comment. So I think that's all the Q&A. I'm sure there'll be other questions that come through. As I say, we'll follow up with information that we can, with the recording, bounce those questions back to us. We're more than happy to discuss them with you and discuss what you need and answer the questions. Just finally, a couple of things. If you're desperate to get in touch with us before the email, this is an email address you can use. You can also start a trial and create your own workflow using this link here. And again, these links will be sent to you. And also anybody who's registered for this event, whether you attended live or you are watching the recording, then this link here, which again is in the email, entitles you to a 25% discount for a period of time. So the details are in there. I think it's worth certainly taking a look at Workflow, what it can do for you. If you've got any questions about this functionality, how to do certain things, please come back to us. And throughout your life of your subscription, support is free once you've got a subscription for OverDRIVE. So we're more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. I've run slightly over time, but and hopefully it's not too rushed for you. Hopefully you've got the information that you want. So please come back to us if you've got any further questions, and we'll hopefully talk to you soon. Thank you very much, and thank you, Ian.